It all started one ordinary morning when I walked outside and noticed something strange about my backyard pond. The water level was unusually high, and the sound of rushing water was louder than ever. I had built a small dam years ago to manage the flow, and I thought I was just taking care of my property like any responsible homeowner. But little did I know, that simple act would soon turn my life upside down. Imagine waking up to find that your neighbors are calling authorities on you, accusing you of something as outrageous as illegally controlling water on your own land. That's exactly what happened to me, and it didn't stop at warnings or small fines. No, I ended up facing a $50,000 fine from my homeowners association. You heard that right. $50,000 just for trying to manage water responsibly. If you've ever felt trapped by rules that make no sense, stick around because my story is about to get wild. And before we dive deeper, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Karen Stories Daily so you never miss stories that are stranger than fiction. It all began when I noticed minor flooding after a particularly rainy season. My dam, which I had constructed years ago to keep water from overflowing into the neighboring property, had started to show signs of strain. I knew I had to do something, but I assumed my actions were perfectly legal. I mean, it's my land. I own it, right? Apparently not in the eyes of my HOA. A few days later, I received a thick envelope with the HOA's official seal. My heart sank as I read the words, unauthorized water management and penalty of $50,000. At first, I thought it was a prank. Maybe someone was trying to scare me. But no, this was very real and it was happening to me. They claimed that by controlling the flow of water, I was violating neighborhood rules designed to protect the community, even though the water had never caused any damage. I had no idea that trying to prevent flooding could land me in this kind of legal trouble. And here's the kicker. My neighbors were fully on board with the HOA's decision, claiming I had no right to interfere with nature. I was stunned, frustrated, and frankly angry. But I knew one thing: I wasn't going to just pay $50,000 and quietly accept this. And if you're enjoying this story, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to Karen Stories Daily, because the craziness is only going to get bigger. At first, I tried to reason with them. I emailed the HOA board, explaining the situation and showing them pictures of my property and the surrounding area. I even offered to meet in person, hoping to resolve things amicably, but every attempt seemed to backfire. The more I explained, the more they seemed determined to prove me guilty. They brought in inspectors, lawyers, and even claimed environmental experts were concerned about my water management. None of it made sense. My dam wasn't harming anyone. If anything, it was protecting the neighborhood. Still, they insisted I was in violation, and the fine loomed larger with each passing week. I felt cornered. I thought about selling the house, moving, or just giving up, but none of those options felt right. I had built my life here, and I wasn't about to let this arbitrary rule destroy it. That's when an idea struck me, a radical idea that would change everything. But before I get to that, let's take a step back and understand just how absurd this situation really was. And by the way, if you haven't already, subscribe to Karen Stories Daily to keep up with stories that feel impossible, but are 100% true. I decided that if the HOA wanted to play hardball, I was going to respond in kind, but on my own terms. I realized that the fine was basically punishing me for controlling nature, so I thought, why not let nature do its thing? The idea seemed crazy at first, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. I began researching natural water systems, environmental impacts, and even old methods of land management that predated modern regulations. The more I learned, the more I realized that my dam wasn't necessary at all. Water could flow naturally, and the land would adjust itself over time. That's when I made a bold decision. I would drop the dam entirely and let the water take its course. It felt like the ultimate act of rebellion, but also the purest form of respect for nature. I filmed the entire process step by step, documenting the water spilling over, the soil absorbing the flow, and the wildlife returning to the newly freed stream. It was mesmerizing. It was beautiful, and most importantly, it was legal because I was no longer controlling the water artificially. It was all on Mother Nature. And if you're still with me, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Karen Stories Daily, because the story is about to reach its shocking climax. Once the dam was gone, the transformation was immediate. The water began to carve new paths naturally, feeding into low areas and creating little ponds that hadn't existed before. Birds, frogs, and even deer started showing up more often. My backyard, which once felt like a battleground with the HOA, suddenly became a peaceful oasis. Neighbors started noticing the change too. Some were skeptical, some were angry, but a few couldn't deny the beauty of what had happened. Meanwhile, the HOA, which had been preparing to collect my $50,000 fine, was forced into an awkward position. They couldn't fine me for letting nature run its course, could they? It felt like poetic justice. The very system that had tried to punish me was rendered powerless by the simplest solution: do nothing and let nature handle it. I had turned the tables without breaking a single rule. Watching this unfold, I felt a mix of relief, pride, and disbelief. I had faced one of the most absurd fines of my life and came out not just unscathed, but victorious. And this moment taught me something important: sometimes the best way to fight a ridiculous system isn't with confrontation, but with creativity and patience. And remember, all of this is brought to you by Karen Stories Daily, where real-life stories defy logic and expectation. In the weeks following the dam removal, I noticed something even more remarkable. The soil, which had been compacted and prone to flooding, began to heal naturally. Plants that had struggled to grow in the waterlogged areas started thriving. The water itself became clearer as it moved freely, instead of stagnating behind the dam. It was like watching the environment reset itself in a way I could never have orchestrated manually. Even the HOA started to lose interest. They realized there was nothing left to regulate, no fine to collect, no violation to claim. It was as if nature itself had delivered the ultimate mic drop. And as neighbors began to share pictures and stories of the transformed area on social media, I saw something unexpected. People were inspired. They started questioning rules and regulations in their own communities, wondering if maybe sometimes the best solution isn't control, but trust in the natural order of things. My $50,000 nightmare had turned into a lesson for everyone watching. And before we move to the final twist in my story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Karen Stories Daily, because this part will blow your mind. The final twist came a few months later when I received a letter from the HOA. My heart skipped a beat, thinking they were about to come back with more fines or legal threats, but instead it was an apology. They admitted that my actions, while unconventional, had not caused harm, and that nature had in fact solved the problem better than their rules ever could. They even suggested that other homeowners might learn from my approach. Can you imagine? I had gone from being the villain to being the teacher, all because I dared to step back and let go. And the story doesn't end there. Local news picked up the tale. Neighbors started calling to hear my experience firsthand, and people from other states even reached out, asking for advice on how to handle similar disputes. My backyard had become a case study in resilience, creativity, and common sense. And through it all, Karen Stories Daily documented every moment, bringing this unbelievable journey to viewers who, like you, couldn't believe it was real. Reflecting on everything, I realize how lucky I was. What started as a $50,000 nightmare could have destroyed me financially and emotionally. Instead, it became one of the most empowering experiences of my life. I learned that rules are sometimes arbitrary, that nature is far smarter than we give it credit for, and that courage often means doing the simplest thing, even when it feels radical. And the best part, my backyard has never been healthier, my property more beautiful, and my story more inspiring. If there's one thing I want viewers to take away, it's this: never underestimate the power of doing nothing, of trusting the process, and of standing firm when the system seems unfair. And before I go, if this story amazed you, comment below, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to Karen Stories Daily for more unbelievable real-life stories. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.